If you're planning to pursue your master's or your MBA in Germany, then the first step is to shortlist universities. Now the problem is there are more than 400 universities in Germany, which is why the process can get very confusing. And so in this video, I'll be explaining to all of you how to shortlist universities for your master's or your MBA in Germany. If you're new to this channel, my name is Amya. I am a study abroad counselor and I've counseled more than 1,000 students in the last 6 years, helping them get into top ranked universities. I also make study abroad videos helping students make the right decisions. So if you're new, do subscribe to this channel. It will be a win-win for the both of us. Now, you want to watch this video till the end because towards the end of this video, I'm going to share one tip that will get you guaranteed admission into German universities. Let's begin. Now, while I was doing my research for this video, I found out that there are several YouTube videos which cover the different factors that you need to consider while shortlisting universities in Germany. But there were hardly any videos that actually showed the process. So that's exactly the gap I want to fill using this video. I want to give a practical example or a practical guide of a student and shortlist universities using the DAAD website for that student. And before we begin the process, I want to make one important disclaimer. A lot of y'all will be tempted to use rankings to shortlist universities. And while rankings are of use, they only serve as a guide. That should not be the main reason why you select or reject a university, especially not in Germany. In other countries like United States or the UK, a high ranking or a prestigious university can give you a platform or open several opportunities. But in Germany, things don't work that way. Job outcomes are not correlated to the ranking of the university. They are more correlated to the skills and the knowledge that you gain through the program, which is why choosing the right program over a high-ranked university is more important. Having said that, if you do want to use rankings, you can use the QS rankings or the CHE rankings, which are on the DAAD website. Now, before we actually go through the shortlisting process through the DAAD website, you need to set up an Excel file. This Excel file or spreadsheet will be the file in which you add the shortlist of the university. So let me now show you what that Excel file has. So in this Excel file over here, you can see that there are two tables. You have a first table on the top left and then a table below that. The top left table is the student's profile. That is very important to keep because over there you're going to add your GPA, your GRE score and your IELTS, which are the three most important factors that German universities look at when evaluating applicants. The GRE score itself is not used for all programs, but for a few selective programs when it comes to MBA or MS, especially in a few of the TU9 universities in Germany. So having this side by side while you're doing your shortlist is a great way for you to benchmark or verify whether the university you have shortlisted is actually going to select you or not. Now, here you might want to notice that I have mentioned the Indian GPA of the student to be 8.5 on a scale of 10. I have left the cell for the German GPA blank. And the reason for that is that the German GPA is on a different scale than the Indian GPA. In India, our GPA ranges from 1 to 10, with 4 being the passing grade and 10 being the highest grade. In Germany, grades go from 1 to 5, with 1 being the highest grade and 5 being the lowest grade. So how do you convert your Indian GPA to German GPA? Because remember, when you shortlist universities, they will mention the GPA requirement on the German scale, not on the Indian scale. So to convert your Indian GPA to the German GPA, I found a website, the TUM website, which has a page which has a grade converter, and this grade converter is free and it's accurate. So over here you can see the link to the grade converter. I'm just going to copy paste this and I'm going to add the Indian GPA on that page to convert it to its German equivalent. So here you can see the grade conversion tool on the TUM website. Over here, you need to enter the three different fields. So the first field is the maximum grade at your university. In India, it typically tends to be 10. So I'm adding 10. The second field is the minimum passing grade at your university. As I mentioned some time back, it's typically 4 in India. And then you need to enter your own GPA, which in this case is 8.5. So I'll go ahead and add that and hit convert. Now, when you hit convert, you will see that the German grade is 1.7. Remember how I said that the German grades go from 1 to 5? So that means that 1.7 is actually a pretty good grade because it's closer to 1, which is the highest grade you can get. So let's go back to our shortlisting sheet and add the 1.7 under the German GPA field. Alright, so this is how you fill the first table or the profile table of yourself or any student that you're doing the shortlisting for. Below that, you will see another table, which is the shortlisting table itself. That's the table which has all the important information that you want to put for any university that you shortlist. So now we're going to go to the DAAD website and we're going to actually shortlist universities for this student. Again, on the screen, you will be able to see a link to the DAAD website. Just copy paste that link into your web browser and start shortlisting. I'll do the same. So here on the DAAD website, the first thing that you'll be able to see that there are more than 2,500 programs that are available for international students. That is far too many. Realistically, you are going to apply to probably 10 to 15 universities. On average, our students apply to 12 universities when applying to Germany. So our task now is to reduce this list of 2,500 programs to a list of 10 to 15 programs where we can apply. So for that, let's start filling the 3 fields that you can see at the bottom of your screen: the course type, the course language, and the subject groups. So in course type, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select Masters because this video is about shortlisting Masters or MBA programs for Germany. And then under language, I'm going to select English only. The reason being that even if you know German, some German, studying in an English language program is going to be easier for you, and it's going to be easier for you to get grades if you go for an English language program and not for a German or a German and English hybrid program. And then in subject groups, you need to add the appropriate subject group. Now let's assume that this student wants to study computer science. In India, computer science would fall under the engineering sciences group, but in Germany and in other Western countries, it falls under mathematics and natural sciences. So let's go and add that filter. So you can already see now that we've added these 3 things, the number of programs shortlisted has dropped from 2,500 to 650. So it's already shortlisted a few programs for us. And then hit on search. Now these are the list of the 650 plus programs that we have for us in Germany for our masters in computer science. But again, this is far too many. So how do we shortlist programs further? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to use the filters on the left side of the page to shortlist this list further. So let's go one by one and check what are the different things that we can do to bring this list down to 10 or 15 universities. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go under areas of studies and you want to select the specific area. Remember that we've selected the subject group, which is mathematics and natural sciences, but apart from computer science, that also includes a whole lot of different subjects. So let me go and select computer science over here. Below that, you can select different subjects within computer science. A Masters of Science in any country is a specialized program. So typically students will end up doing one specialization regardless of their program. So let's say in this case, you are choosing computer science, you might want to do cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, software engineering, or any other field. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to choose artificial intelligence. So let's go ahead and do that. You can already see that we're down to 87 results. So from 650 programs, we've now come down to 87 results, which is much better than what we initially saw, but we've got some work to do. Again, we've got to get this list down to 10 to 15 universities. So let's keep shortlisting. So now, below that, you will see a mode of study. You have multiple modes of study that are available to you at German universities. If you're planning to study abroad, then it doesn't make sense to do an online program or a partially online program, which is why you need to apply a filter on full on-site programs, which means you will be studying on campus. Next, after that, you will see the duration tab. Universities in Germany offer programs which are as less as 1 week in duration. These are typically exchange programs to more than 4 years in duration, which are typically PhD level programs. So we want a program which ranges somewhere between 1 year to 2 years. Anything less than that is not going to give you enough time to adjust to the German culture or to network to get jobs, and anything more than that is actually going to increase your living costs and is going to reduce your ROI. Then below that, you will see some filters where you can change the location of the university or select the location of the university you want to study at. I am going to leave that blank for now because I want to see what options I have across Germany and not in any one particular state. But below that, you will see an important field called the type of institutions. And this is a good part for me to explain the different types of institutions in Germany. So in Germany, you have 2 kinds of universities. You have your typical research-based universities and you have your universities of applied sciences. One isn't necessarily better than the other. Which one you choose depends completely on which program you're going for and what your long-term career goals are. If your goal is to get into academia, research, or to pursue a PhD in the future, you should go for a research-oriented university and not apply to a university of applied sciences. Because if you do your master's in such a program or in such a university, you may not be eligible to do your PhD later on. On the other hand, if your primary goal is just to get a job and there's no chance that you're going to be doing a PhD in the future, feel free to go ahead and apply to a university of applied sciences. Now, in this case, we've selected a student who wants to study AI. AI, in my opinion, is a research-oriented field. Anyone who has research credentials will have a leg up in the recruitment process. And therefore, I'm going to select only universities over here, not the universities of applied sciences. Under that, now you will see a few course type specific filters available to us. So the first of those are your tuition fees. Here in Germany, 80% of the programs are free. That is why international students actually apply to German universities, because of its affordability. So it wouldn't make sense for us to actually select those universities which charge a tuition fee, which is why in the drop down, I'm going to be selecting only those universities that give no fees or that have no fees. So now you can see that after applying all these criteria, our list of 87 has now gone down to 38. So remember, we started with 2,500 international programs and now we've come down to 38 different universities. But again, this is far too many. We've got to come down to 10 to 15 universities. So how do you do that? So now you need to go through each program one by one and you need to check what the program incorporates and what the eligibility requirement is, and then select which of these programs you want to apply to. So let's take the first program or the first university as an example. So the first program is a Masters in AI and Robotics offered by the University of Technology at Nuremberg. Now, if I want to study AI, pure AI, then this program may not be well suited to me because it includes elements of robotics, which is a part of electrical engineering, which is not something that is completely relevant to AI. So I'm not going to shortlist this. Now let's take a look at the second university on the screen. So the second university has a program in Masters in Artificial Intelligence. It's offered by the Brandenburg University of Technology. This, by the way, is one of the TU9 universities. So it's a very good university. And this program seems like a good fit, but I don't want to directly add it to my shortlist. I want to see additional information about the eligibility requirements. So let me click on that and open the eligibility requirements in the new tab. Now here, the moment you click on the program page, you will be taken to the overview section. And this will give you information such as whether the program is full-time or part-time, what the teaching language is, and how long the program is. But the most important thing to check on this page is the course details and the requirements. Because remember, in Germany, the eligibility requirement is very important. If you do not meet the eligibility requirement of a program, you will be rejected by the university, no matter how good the rest of your profile might be. So I've clicked on requirements and registrations, and here I'm going to go through the different requirements. Now, notice that they have mentioned what the cutoff scores for TOEFL, IELTS or other English language tests are. It mentions that you need a minimum of 6 on the IELTS. The student that we've taken has an IELTS of 6.5. So fair enough, we are eligible for this program. Also notice that this program does not seem to have any requirement for a GRE or a GMAT score. Again, our student does not have a GRE score, so we can safely shortlist this university. But before we add this university into our shortlisting table, you also need to check a few important details such as the application deadline and where to submit your application to. Typically, application deadlines for German universities for master's programs for the winter intakes are between March to May. And here you can see that this program has a deadline of 15 July, which is later than the typical period, but which gives us enough time to apply to the program regardless. And finally, you need to check where to submit the application to. There are two ways to submit your application to German universities. You can either submit them directly on the university's website, or you can submit them through a website called UniAssist, which is a common platform for most German universities. Now remember that you do not have the option of choosing between the two. The university will tell you where to submit the application. So in this case, you can see that the university has asked students to apply to the university through the UniAssist website. So I'm highlighting that, and that's where you need to submit your application. Now with all this information, we can actually add the details to our shortlisting tab. So now that we've added all the details of this university in the university shortlisting table, we can move on to the next university and evaluate whether it's a right fit for us. So the third university that you can see on the DAAD's website out of our shortlist of 38 is the Masters in Artificial Intelligence program at FAU Erlangen, which is again in Nuremberg. So let's again go to the webpage of this university and check the course details and requirements. Now at first glance, it seems that this program might be a good fit, but again, like I said, we need to check the requirements. Under the requirements, what you will quickly notice is that the GRE is not mandatory. However, the university does mention that if you do have a GRE certificate, it is very helpful. This is a hint. It means that the university is actually going to give preference to those students who have the GRE versus those who do not. Now, our student in this particular case does not have the GRE score, which is why it might not be appropriate for us to include this university in the shortlist. So now, I've shown you an example of how we can shortlist universities for a Masters in Artificial Intelligence. We've gone through 3 different universities and you can see that we've selected only one out of these 3. So chances are that if you go through this entire list of 38 that we've shortlisted, you might end up with 10 to 15 universities. Now, once you go through this process, one of two things might happen. You might end up with too many universities, or you might end up with too few universities. If you end up with too many universities, then you might want to apply the location filter. You might want to choose the location based on the cost of living or based on those cities which are close to the industries where you want to work in. On the other hand, if there are very few universities that are available to you based on the eligibility criteria and after following the process that I explained, then you might want to expand your options. So maybe instead of applying only to universities, also apply to universities of applied sciences. Maybe instead of applying only to free programs, you might be willing to pay the university a certain tuition fee, or maybe you might want to go for a slightly different kind of a program. So in my case, I've gone for an artificial intelligence. Maybe you want to expand that to artificial intelligence, software engineering, cybersecurity, or further specializations like that. Alright, so with that covered, before ending the video, I want to give you one final tip on how you can actually guarantee and admit to German universities. Now, students do not know this, but German universities actually have two kinds of programs. You have NC programs or numerous clauses programs, and you have non-NC programs or non-numerous clauses programs. So what does this mean and how does this affect your shortlist? Well, NC programs are those programs which have a limit on the number of students that they can take. 60, 120, 180, typically in multiples of 60. And non-NC programs are those programs which do not have any upper limit on the number of students that they can take. So this means that even if you meet the eligibility criteria for an NC program, you may not get shortlisted if other students have a stronger profile than you. On the other hand, you are guaranteed an admit to a program which is non-NC in nature because there's no limit to how many students they can take. So my suggestion to everyone, if you want a guaranteed admit from a German university, is to have at least 2 to 3 universities which are in the non-NC category. So with that, I've shared all the information I wanted to share about shortlisting universities in Germany. If you like this video, then do share this video with others and do like it. And if you want access to the shortlisting format, please comment German University Shortlist in the comments below and we'll share that with you. Also, if you have any questions about studying in Germany or studying abroad process in general, you can add that to your comments. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.